Okay, now we're going to start the book of Samuel. And here's where the history really starts to take off with everything happening in Israel. So, the first thing we have here, and let me get that note page out, is this. We have several things. Okay, it starts out with this family. And what we read is there's a woman, again, who's barren, and something happens, and God grants her to have a son. And the whole thing is the story is another type of Mary and Jesus with the birth. Because it's a special birth, he becomes a special deliverer or servant of God, and he becomes a prophet and a judge and all that. So it's a type in that way. And another thing, Samuel is a type of Christ in another way because he ends up replacing the old priesthood that has become corrupted. So that's a type in that way as well. And he was dedicated from birth. So all of this is a type. But it's interesting. It's an interesting story. I'm going to read that and I'm going to turn this light on here. Okay, so chapter 1. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim of the mountains of Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. And he had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. This man went up from his city yearly to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. Also, the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. So at Shiloh. And whenever the time came for Elkanah to make an offering, he would give portions to Peninnah, his wife, and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah, he would give a double portion, for he loved Hannah, although the Lord had closed her womb. And her rival also provoked her severely to make her miserable, because the Lord had closed her womb. So it was year by year when she went up to the house of the Lord that she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat. I mean, these people, and I've heard of this kind of thing, it's terrible. And they just have such a wicked heart to, obviously Hannah was already in pain. And then she wants to hurt her more because of this, I mean, they're just wicked-hearted people. It's sadistical, it's malicious, and you see that out there. I mean, it's in the world. That's the sin nature, and it's terrible. It's sad. I mean, not everybody would do this. There are differences, and this woman was that way. So, anyway, so then Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? And why is your heart grieved? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? And so you can kind of see, I mean, he was very good to her, you could see, but of course, if you want children, that's not going to be a substitute, that's not going to replace it. So anyway, so Hannah arose after they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh. Now Eli the priest was sitting on the seat by the doorpost of the tabernacle of the Lord. And she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed to the Lord, and wept in anguish. Then she made a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your maidservant, and remember me, and not forget your maidservant, but will give your maidservant a male child, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall come upon his head. So she makes a vow to dedicate her son to the Lord, for the service of the Lord, like in that whole tabernacle thing as a priest. And he is kind of like, he's a kind of a priest, a prophet, and a judge, this Samuel. So it's a type again of Christ. But anyway, so she says that I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life. Now, for someone who has no child yet, that's a pretty heavy offer, right? I mean, wow. And no razor shall come upon his head. So she's like saying she'll have him be a Nazarite. That's what that is, like Samson was. And it happened, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli watched her mouth. Now Hannah spoke in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she was drunk. So Eli said to her, How long will you be drunk? Put your wine away from you. But Hannah answered and said, No, my Lord, I am a woman of sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor intoxicating drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Do not consider your maidservant a wicked woman, for out of the abundance of my complaint and grief I have spoken until now. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition which you have asked of him. And she said, Let your maidservant find favor in your sight. So the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. Okay. Now, then they arose early in the morning and worshipped before the Lord, and returned and came to their house at Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. So it came to pass in the process of time that Hannah conceived and bore a son, and called his name Samuel, saying, Because I have asked for him from the Lord. And that here means heard by God. There are certain names like this, like I had heard it meant asked of by God, but heard by God is close enough. There's another one I've heard of, like, I think it's Nathaniel or Nathaniel. It means granted by God. Heard by God was Samuel, so it's something along those lines, like he answered her prayer. Okay, so anyway, that's what she names him, Samuel, saying, Because I have asked for him from the Lord. And he granted it. Now the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer to the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow. But Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, Not until the child is weaned, then I will take him, that he may appear before the Lord and remain there forever. So this was breastfeeding, and that went on for a longer period of time than it has been in more modern times. So I don't know. I've heard it can go up to 2 years. Anyway, then the child is weaned, and I guess then they eat regular food, and they don't, eat the breast milk anymore. So that's when they're weaned. Okay, so that's what she says. So Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Do what seems best to you. Wait until you have weaned him. Only let the Lord establish his word. Then the woman stayed and nursed her son until she had weaned him. So that year she didn't go up. Now, when she had weaned him, she took him up with her with three bulls, 1 ephah of flour, and a skin of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord in Shiloh. And the child was young. Then they slaughtered a bull and brought the child to Eli. And she said, O my Lord, as your soul lives, my Lord, I am the woman who stood by you here, praying to the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition which I asked of him. Therefore I also have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he shall be lent to the Lord. So they worship the Lord there. Okay, so now God had a plan in this because he saw the priesthood had become corrupted and it needed a change. So this was all orchestrated for that purpose. Okay, now here in chapter 2, it's her whole prayer of rejoicing and what has happened, and it kind of reminds me of that what Mary does too, over there in Matthew or Luke. It's in Luke, but anyway. So she says this long prayer of rejoicing about this. Okay, then Elkanah went to his house at Ramah, but the child ministered to the Lord before Eli the priest. Okay, now the sons of Eli were corrupt. They did not know the Lord. And the priest's custom with the people was that when any man offered a sacrifice, the priest's servant would come with a 3-pronged flesh hook in his hand while the meat was boiling. Then he would thrust it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot, and the priest would take for himself all that the flesh hook brought up. So they did in Shiloh to all the Israelites who came there. Also, before they burned the fat, the priest's servant would come and say to the man who sacrificed, Give meat for roasting to the priest, for he will not take boiled meat from you, but raw. And if the man said to him, They should really burn the fat first, then you may take as much as your heart desires, he would then answer him, No, but you must give it now, and if not, I will take it by force. Therefore, the sin of the young men was very great before the Lord, for men abhorred the offering of the Lord. Okay, so these men were wicked and corrupt and everything bad, and there's more on the way. But I just wanted to stop and make the point that, they were ordained, probably consecrated, all those things, as priests and the sons of Eli. But it says right here, they did not know the Lord. Okay, so just because somebody has a religious office of any title, any type of priest, whatever the title might be in this setting, does not mean they know the Lord. Okay, that's a false assumption, and a lot of people take that for granted out there today. Back then, it was this setting. Now it would be the church, but the others don't anyway. But I mean, even within that structure, don't ever assume these people are belonging to the Lord. I mean, you just, most of them don't really. So, and that's an error many people make in assuming that. So, you never know. Something once in a while they might, but many times nowadays they do not. Okay. And they have today no authority over anyone. Okay. The only one who has authority over you is God. If you are his, you're a Christian, you belong to him. He's the only one who has any authority over you. Okay, that is your one and only covering. So don't get deceived by that other error there. Now, so in 18, but Samuel ministered before the Lord, even as a child, wearing a linen ephod. Moreover, his mother used to make him a little robe and bring it to him year by year when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. And Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife and say, "The Lord give you descendants from this woman for the loan that was given to the Lord." Then they would go to their own home. That's so cute. I can just picture him with these little robes and outfits and, doing his thing. It's just so sweet. And she would see him once a year and bring these things, and that's what it was. And her husband obviously was faithful because he did this every year. That was what they were supposed to do. So there's a reason why God chose them for this task. So, and the Lord visited Hannah so that she conceived and bore 3 sons and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, the child Samuel grew before the Lord. So this just means he allowed her to conceive more sons and daughters through her husband, but he gave her more children. So she ended up having a lot. So that's good. Okay. Now, Eli was very old, and he heard everything his sons did to all Israel, and how they lay with the women. Okay, look. And how they lay with the women who assembled at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. So he said to them, "Why do you do such things? For I hear of your evil dealings from all the people. No, my sons, for it is not a good report that I hear. You make the Lord's people transgress. If one man sins against another, God will judge him. But if a man sins against the Lord, who will intercede for him? Nevertheless, they did not heed the voice of their father, because the Lord desired to kill them." Okay, so they were too far gone, but this is the kind of thing you hear about, this stuff happening today in the churches. I mean, I could go down a long list. I don't want to get on a sidetrack now, but that's the same thing. It's all corrupted. This is the stuff they do. They pollute and exploit the offerings. They, just desecrate everything. They sleep with the people. It's terrible. Anyway, they abuse everybody. It's everything. It's just awful. It's wicked. So judgment is at the door for sure. Anyway, and the child Samuel grew in stature and in favor both with the Lord and men. Then a man of God came to Eli and said to him, "Thus says the Lord, did I not clearly reveal myself to the house of your father when they were in Egypt in Pharaoh's house? Did I not choose him out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to offer upon my altar, to burn incense, and to wear an ephod before me? And did I not give to the house of your father all the offerings of the children of Israel made by fire? Why do you kick at my sacrifice and my offering that I have commanded in my dwelling place, and honor your sons more than me, to make yourselves fat with the best of all the offerings of Israel, my people? Therefore, the Lord God of Israel says, I said indeed that your house and the house of your father would walk before me forever. But now the Lord says, far be it from me. For those who honor me I will honor, and those who despise me shall be lightly esteemed. So God honors those who honor him and not those who don't. Behold, the days are coming that I will cut off your arm and the arm of your father's house, so that there will not be an old man in your house, and you will see an enemy in my dwelling place, despite all the good which God does. for Israel, and there shall not be an old man in your house forever. But any of your men whom I do not cut off from my altar shall consume your eyes and grieve your heart. And all the descendants of your house shall die in the flower of their age. Now this shall be a sign to you that will come upon your two sons, on Hophni and Phinehas. In one day they shall die, both of them. Then I will raise up for myself a faithful priest who shall do according to what is in my heart and in my mind. I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before my anointed forever. And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left in your house will come and bow down to him for a piece of silver and a morsel of bread, and say, please put me in one of the priestly positions, that I may eat a piece of bread. Okay. Now, and this judgment comes to pass later. 3. Now the boy Samuel ministered to the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There was no widespread revelation. And it came to pass at that time, while Eli was lying down in his place, and when his eyes had begun to grow so dim that he could not see, and before the lamp of God went out in the tabernacle of the Lord where the ark of God was, and while Samuel was lying down, that the Lord called Samuel. And he answered, here I am. So we see this again, the here I am, So he ran to Eli and said, here I am, for you called me. And he said, I did not call, lie down again. And he went and lay down. Then the Lord called yet again, Samuel. So Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, here I am, for you called me. He answered, I did not call, my son, lie down again. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, nor was the word of the Lord yet revealed to him. So he didn't have an encounter yet, okay? And the Lord called Samuel again the third time. So he arose and went to Eli and said, here I am, for you did call me. Then Eli perceived that the Lord had called the boy. Therefore Eli said to Samuel, go lie down, and it shall be, if he calls you, that you must say, speak, Lord, for your servant hears. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. Now the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel answered, speak, for your servant hears. Then the Lord said to Samuel, behold, I will do something in Israel at which both ears of everyone who hears it will tingle. In that day I will perform against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house, from beginning to end. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knows, because his sons made themselves vile, and he did not restrain them. And therefore I have sworn to the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be atoned for by sacrifice or offering forever. So Samuel lay down until morning, and opened the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel was afraid to tell Eli the vision. Then Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. He answered, here I am. And he said, what is the word that the Lord spoke to you? Please do not hide it from me. God do so to you, and more also, if you hide anything from me of all the things that he said to you. Then Samuel told him everything, and hid nothing from him. And he said, it is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him. So he knew, he had heard it enough times, and he knew that was valid and confirmed and verified and all that. So anyway, and he knew, like, probably he used to hear and he doesn't anymore, and he knew how that goes. That's why he knew to tell Samuel what to say. So anyway, this is not bad, but it's not good enough. He needed to repent and deal with his sons, discipline them, but it was too late for them, pretty much. But anyway, so 19. So Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fall to the ground. So that was Samuel. And all Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, knew that Samuel had been established as a prophet of the Lord. Then the Lord appeared again in Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel in Shiloh by the word of the Lord. And the word of Samuel came to all Israel. So he was, a prophet then. Okay, so that is more or less the deal. We hear about Samuel a lot, okay? There's a place over here where, let me find it. Here, Samuel judges Israel. So he's the one who anoints King David as king, and first he anoints Saul as king, and so he plays a big role and has a big hand in what the dealings are in Israel for quite a while, till he's old and passes away. And there's all kinds of stuff, so we'll hear about him a lot. But that's the end of the beginning of the story of Samuel and how he came to be. So I'll make this one video, and then I'm going to read a few more chapters for the next video here, because I just want to get into this part. So I'll be right back.